Welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, August 16th, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Opposition activists Adriana King and Kenson King appeared before Magistrate Ricky Bonnet at the Serious Offences Court today to be arraigned on 4 charges brought against them each under the Public Order Act. They pleaded not guilty to all charges, which stemmed from protest action taken on July 29th and August 5th in capital Kingstown. They are facing charges of organizing or was concerned in organizing a public procession or meeting in contravention of Section 5.1 and Section 5.2 of the Public Order Act. The Kings are being represented by lawyers K. Bacchus Batiste, Israel Bruce, and Zita Banwell. The lead lawyer K. Bacchus Batiste in court today asks that minor changes be made to one of the charges against both of our clients, which she explained to reporters after the adjournment of the case.
As read out, were altered. One of them was altered, and I had spotted the problem that they had, and I noticed that they corrected it, so we are supposed to be served with the correct charge. The charge that they have actually read out was different from what was served on our clients.
What was the difference?
They had, one was duplicitous. They did organize and also was concerned in organizing, so they dropped the did organize, and the charges now was concerned in organizing. We prepare.
Wait until disclosure?
Yes, yeah. We wait disclosure.
Disclosure.
Okay. And of course our clients pleaded not guilty.
The defense lawyer also asked for disclosure, which was set for September 10th. The next court hearing is on November 17, 2021. On Friday evening, August 13, 2021, the teacher and suspended prison officer were arrested and were released on Sunday on station bail after the 4 charges were laid against them each. Outside the courthouse today, there was a heavy police presence and a small group of supporters for the political activists. Meanwhile, opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday and other opposition members of parliament were also at the courthouse to lend support to the political activists. The opposition leader said that it has been distressing to learn of the arrests made, noting that from all indications, it is politically motivated.
It seems to me that they waited until Sunday to bring charges which are clearly political, because they are dealing with organizing a protest, being at a protest without, they say, permission. They'll have to prove that in the court. The problem is that this takes place in a context where people are exercising their democratic right, and it's clearly an effort to suppress people in the exercise of that right and to discourage others from taking part in further demonstrations. You know, it's politically motivated, and this is something that we cannot have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in this country. We can't have it where people are exercising their democratic right and the state is brought with a heavy hand to bear against them, and to arrest people on Friday afternoon and essentially searching all through the weekend to find something to charge them with, which seems to be what has happened, because initially they were talking about inciting and then they're now charging them with organizing protest.
Dr. Friday said that he stands in solidarity with the activists as he was also part of the protest on August 5th, 2021.
Here because I stood on the streets of Kingstown to demonstrate that people have a right to come out and to show their disapproval with legislation. Where else to do it but in front of Parliament?
Yeah.
You know, that is to me the height of the expression of our democratic values and rights. It's something that we should all encourage. You know, democracy doesn't mean that you elect people to go into Parliament and every 5 years you make an X with a pen. You're supposed to be there defending it, and that's what they were doing, and that's why I'm here today as well, to show solidarity with those persons whom they charge for taking part in that exercise of the democratic right. Because when you abandon that, basically, you know, where do we go? We're no longer in St. Vincent. We're in countries where you have a police state.
According to the opposition leader, no one is guilty of inciting violence during the protest on August 5, 2021, in which the Prime Minister was hit in the head by a projectile and sustained a concussion. And the opposition leader said they will not be dissuaded by the enforcement of the Public Order Act, as stated by the police in a reminder to political parties, trade unions, and the general public. Dr. Friday said that peaceful protests will continue, noting that there is a misinterpretation of the Public Order Act.
Protest, that is their interpretation of what is required. We don't believe that that's the case, because if that's the case, then how can you ever protest? You know, it's a right in the Constitution that you have to go and do it, so long as you do so peacefully and you do so in a way that elevates our democratic expression of our democratic rights, and that's what we intend to do. That's what we've done in all the years I've been in politics. That's what we intend to do going forward. And you know, the actions that they're taking now is not going to discourage. It's not going to prevent us from doing so, because it's really, we are at a tipping point. If you don't stand up and say that these are our democratic rights and we are going to insist upon them, then we are essentially conceding that the state has the right to tell you when and where you can exercise your democratic rights. That is not how democracy functions. Certainly it hasn't been the way it's been functioning in St. Vincent, and you know, it's not the way that I want to see it happen. And most of the people came out in the street in Kingstown, that's what they will say, and more people now since then are voicing the same concern.
In other news, heavy steaming at La Soufrière volcano was observed over the weekend, sending some persons into panic mode about a possible eruption on Saturday evening. However, this was quickly dispelled by lead monitoring scientist Professor Richard Robinson. On radio today, Professor Robinson reiterated that there was no eruption, and what persons saw on Saturday was heavy steaming as a result of heavy rainfall at the volcano.
For months now, I think, not only myself, but other colleagues before, that you have hot rock up there. And if you have hot rock, or hot material anyway, people think of coals. If you have coals and you throw water on it, what's going to happen? It's going to steam.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have hot rock up there and you dump a lot of rain like you had on Saturday up on the mountain, don't be surprised if you have steaming. And if this steaming gets vigorous, it could actually look like a steam plume. Nowhere near, I can't see how people could have seen and thought this was an explosion. I mean, people have lived through explosions. You know what explosions look like. And that did not look like an explosion. And I could say that both because of the fact I know what could happen, but also...
The scientist said it is unfortunate that people are still not properly informed on the activity of the volcano, noting that if there was any unusual activity, they would have informed the public in advance.
Outreach team has been to ensure that people are well educated about the volcano, both in terms of having information about what's happening, but also begin to understand it in a way in which, you know, things like these really shouldn't upset people, in that they should not become rumor. Clearly, we have a team of people that are monitoring the volcano closely. We have a set of instrumentation that is as good as it has ever been in terms of monitoring the volcano. So the chances of us having something happen without us knowing and having known, not telling the public in a speedy manner would be extremely unusual. So I think as soon as people heard whatever started, they should have realized, given that you didn't have an authoritative source like seismic or like NEMO saying or validating that it must have been something, you know, incorrect.
The alert level for La Soufrière volcano remains at orange. The volcano last erupted explosively on April 22nd, 2021. Director of Forestry Fitzgerald Providence said that the damage on the slope of the volcano in the Richmond area and the Waliabu River show how the volcanic eruptions have severely impacted the environment. He was speaking on SVG-TV's Viewpoint program on Sunday, which focused on the environment and quality of life after the last eruption 4 months ago.
Forest to elfin woodland to where it ended up with just mosses and lichens at the top of the volcano. Inside where they had the dome, that was a new environment being created. It started to reforest, and those who would have followed it, I started going to the volcano in 1987, 86, 87, and over that time of going up there, I would have seen changes in terms of the vegetation occupying higher up the mountain and so on. And all this was building back from the 1979 eruption, where at least 1/3 of the vegetation on the top of the mountain was removed. It wasn't as big as this eruption, and it just lasted a week or so, but this lasted a whole month, and there were 30 eruptions.
Providence said of great concern is the human impact of the natural rehabilitation of the environment.
I just went down to the Richmond area last Monday, the holiday, August Monday holiday, and what I noticed was there's already garbage. They left by people. Also, my first trip up to Bamba Range, there were 2 bottles of water, plastic bottles, left by some person. Although it was a difficult trek to get even to Bamba Range because the trees were still on the road and so on. But persons went up there and they left their water bottles. We see already the impact of humans on the rehabilitation, the natural rehabilitation of this environment. And that is one of the concerns we have to look at.
The forestry director also spoke of challenges that people may face as they move back to the communities which were severely impacted by the eruptions.
I would see some problems in terms of what will come back. We may introduce exotic species that will take over and just disrupt that whole environment. But those are some of the concerns that we have to cover in terms of how life and livelihoods come back in that environment. Yes. In terms of the resettlement, we know that there's a working committee now working at how we resettle, and some of the points that Damien raised in terms of should people be living on these riverbanks, particularly in northeast.
We take a look at that in a little while.
Yeah, so those are some of the challenges, but we must manage the way we deal with that environment and coming back and getting back in.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves on radio today expressed solidarity with the people of Haiti, where hundreds lost their lives following a 7.2 earthquake on Saturday. PM Gonsalves announced that his government will be donating $100,000 to the earthquake-ravaged country. He said while SVG is still dealing with the impact of the eruption of volcano, many countries came to its assistance in its time of needs, and it is only fitting to lend support to another country in need.
I declared with the Minister of Finance this morning, will make an initial contribution promptly of $100,000. We ourselves have our problems, our challenges, but the Haitian people, they are our brothers and sisters, and the greatest act of solidarity is not to give from the abundance that you may possess, but from the little that you have.
Yes.
It's the story of the widow's mite, well told in the Bible. So we will transmit soonest to the Haitian government $100,000.
PM Gonsalves also pleaded with other countries to come to the aid of Haiti at the earliest possible time. He said SVG will also be looking to help Haiti in its post-recovery efforts in different ways.
To assist them with the immediate humanitarian problems. And if they need help with things like when the reconstruction comes with electricity and water and so on, we have technical assistance which we can provide. You know, the Caribbean Development Bank has already indicated its willingness to assist with some initial assistance for the humanitarian effort, and I know that friendly nations are being mobilized and across the world, and very much so CARICOM members.
3 new COVID-19 positive cases were reported from 273 samples processed on Saturday, August 14, 2021, resulting in a positivity rate of 1.1%. 2 of the new cases are imported cases from the United Kingdom. 3 new recoveries were noted over the reporting period. 48 cases are currently active and 12 persons with COVID-19 have died. 2,317 cases of COVID-19 and 2,257 recoveries have been reported in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. The health authorities say in view of the increased risk of infection with and subsequent transmission of COVID-19 posed by the growing incidence of variants of concern in persons entering St. Vincent and the Grenadines, strict compliance with all protocols and recommendations, including the effective use of masks, physical distancing, hand sanitizing, and immunization with the available vaccines is strongly recommended. Police here are investigating the circumstances surrounding the shooting death of Romano Carpi Thomas, a 29-year-old laborer of Mackey's Hill. The police say, according to investigations, about 6:38 p.m. on Sunday, August 15, 2021, at Paul's Avenue, an unknown person armed with a gun shot him multiple times about the body. Thompson was subsequently rushed to the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital for medical attention, but succumbed to the injuries during the early morning of this morning. A post-mortem examination is expected to be conducted on the deceased to ascertain the exact cause of death. Thomas' death marks the 25th homicide for the year 2021. Person with information pertaining to this investigation are asked to contact the Assistant Commissioner in charge of crimes at telephone number 178445-61339 or the officer in charge of the Criminal Investigations Department or the Major Crimes Unit at telephone number 1784-456-1810 or any police station or police officer you are comfortable with. The police say all information will be treated confidentially and that investigations into the incident are ongoing. Police have issued a wanted person bulletin for conman Alistair Smith Millington, better known as Tombstone. Police say Smith Millington, who also goes by the names Junior Smith and Tristan Smith, is wanted in connection with several reports of deception. The 42-year-old, whose address was given as Sign Hill or Diamond, is 5 feet 11 inches and of stout build. Smith Millington is light in complexion, has an oval face, thick lips, and brown eyes. Police say that he should be approached with caution. The police are asking the assistance of the public in locating Smith Millington. If seen, you're asked to call 1784-451-2467 or 1784-45-61810. Calls, the police say, would be treated confidentially.